At some point in your life, and if you are past 70, that point has likely already arrived, you realize that no matter how clearly you explained yourself, it changed nothing. The people who misunderstood you still misunderstood you. The ones who judged you kept judging you. And yet, somehow, you kept explaining. Today, we talk about why the wisest people you will ever meet eventually stopped, and what happened to them when they did. Emotional setup. There are evenings, quiet ones, the kind that settle over a house when the day has wound down, when you sit with your own thoughts and realize you have spent an enormous amount of your life trying to make other people understand you. You explained your decisions to your children. You justified your choices to people whose opinions, looking back, never truly mattered. You softened your truth so that others would be comfortable. You apologized for things that needed no apology. Nobody around you sees it, but you do. You know this feeling, the quiet exhaustion of having to constantly translate who you are for a world that was never truly listening. What you are about to hear is not advice. It is a recognition of something the wisest people of this generation already know and live by in silence. Credibility bridge. Researchers who study the psychology of aging and elders who have lived well past 90 with remarkable peace of mind share something striking in common. It is not wealth. It is not perfect health. It is not even family. It is the decision, made at some point quietly and without announcement, to stop justifying their existence to the world around them. And that is why what you are about to hear matters more than you realize. We will arrive at point 5 in a moment, and I want you to pay very close attention when we do, because it is the one that most people dismiss immediately, and it is the one that, once understood, quietly changes how you move through every single day that remains. 7 points. Point 1. You do not owe anyone an explanation for how you choose to live your life. After 70 years, you have earned the right to live exactly as you see fit, and you owe the world no justification for that. The people who love you will not need an explanation. The people who demand one have placed their comfort above your dignity. This is not cruelty. This is simply the quiet mathematics of a life fully lived. There was a woman named Dorothy, 73 years old, who had spent her entire adult life explaining her choices to everyone around her. Why she ate what she ate, why she dressed the way she did, why she spent her Sundays alone with her garden instead of at family gatherings. One morning she simply stopped. She did not announce it. She did not argue. She just lived. Within 6 months, she told her doctor she felt lighter than she had in 20 years. Her doctor told her what she already knew. She had put down a weight she should never have been carrying. When you spend your days justifying who you are quietly telling the world that who you are requires justification. It does not. The cost of a lifetime of unnecessary explanation is not just time. It is the slow erosion of your own sense of self. The wisest thing a person can do, after 70, is to live their truth quietly, completely, and without apology. But here is something I want you to sit with for a moment before we continue. How many decisions in just the last month have you made smaller, quieter, or different, simply because you feared having to explain them? Point 2. Your silence is not weakness. It is the highest form of self-respect. The world often misreads silence as defeat. In truth, the quietest people in any room are often the ones carrying the most wisdom. Of courage. It is the fullest expression of it. A man named Harold, 78, had spent years in arguments with his adult son over his choice to remain in his small-town home instead of moving closer to family. Every visit became a negotiation, every phone call a debate. One evening, Harold simply said, "This is my home, I am staying." No explanation followed. The argument had nowhere to go. Slowly, over the following months, his son stopped pushing and began, for the first time, to simply visit. There is a kind of peace that only arrives when you stop trying to change minds that were never truly open to begin with. That peace is not resignation, it is clarity, silence, chosen with intention, is one of the loudest statements a person can make, and we have not even arrived at the point that researchers say is the most overlooked reason seniors lose their peace of mind. That one is coming next, and it may be the most important thing in this video. Point 3. Explaining yourself to people who have already decided what they think about you is a form of self-abandonment. There are people in every life, sometimes family, sometimes old friends, who formed their opinion of you long ago and have not updated it since. No amount of explaining will shift that image. You are speaking to a portrait, not a person, and every word spent in that direction is a word taken away from your own peace. A woman named Grace, 71, spent 3 years trying to explain to her sister why she had made the financial choices she had made after her husband passed. Every explanation was met with more questions, more doubt, more judgment. One afternoon, Grace quietly put down the phone in the middle of a sentence, not in anger, but in a kind of gentle finality. She realized in that moment that the conversation had never been about understanding. It had been about control. The most painful thing about explaining yourself to someone who has already decided is not that they do not listen, it is that some part of you already knew they would not. And you explained yourself anyway. After 70, your energy is precious. Spend it where it is received. Guard it from where it is wasted. Nobody is going to say this to your face. So I will. Some of the people you have been explaining yourself to have never truly respected you. And no explanation, however perfect, will ever earn what was withheld by choice. Point 4. You are allowed to change without explaining why. One of the quiet cruelties of growing older within a close circle of people is that they often refuse to let you change. They have a version of you fixed in their mind, the person you were at 40, at 50, at 60, and any deviation from that image makes them uncomfortable, and so you feel the pressure, wordlessly, to explain every evolution. A man named Thomas, 75, had spent his working life as a stoic, hard man of few words. In his 70s, he began painting watercolors alone at his kitchen table every morning. When family members expressed surprise, he noticed the old impulse rising, to explain, to justify, to make it make sense for them. Instead, he simply kept painting. Some of them eventually came around, others never did. And Thomas found, to his quiet surprise, that he needed neither response. You are not the person you were at 40. Why would you be? Growth is not betrayal. Change is not confusion. You are a living, evolving human being, and that requires no apology. The people who truly love you will celebrate who you are becoming. The others were never truly seeing you anyway. Point 5. Protecting your peace is not selfishness. It is survival. After a certain age, your peace of mind is not a luxury. It is a medical necessity. Chronic stress, conflict, and the ongoing labor of emotional justification take a measurable toll on the body, on sleep, on immunity, on the heart. The wisest seniors understand this not as philosophy, but as lived reality in their own bones. A woman named Evelyn, 77, had a doctor who told her something she never forgot. He looked at her chart, her blood pressure, her sleep disruptions, her recurring chest tightness, and he said quietly, "Evelyn, tell me about the relationships in your life that take more than they give." She was silent for a long time. When she spoke, she listed 3. Within a year, she had drawn careful, quiet boundaries around all 3. Her next checkup told the story her body had been trying to tell for years. Choosing peace is not giving up on people. It is refusing to give up on yourself. There is a difference, and after 70, that difference becomes everything. Guard your peace the way you guard anything that keeps you alive, because it does. What comes next is the part that will stay with you long after this video ends. Do not skip it. Point 6. The approval you were taught to seek was never yours to need. Many of us grew up in a world that conditioned us from our earliest years to seek approval, from parents, from teachers, from spouses, from children, from communities. That conditioning runs deep. It does not simply dissolve with age, but it can, over time, be recognized for what it always was, a borrowed need, not a real one. A man named Raymond, 79, sat with his granddaughter one afternoon, and she asked him why he never seemed to care what other people thought. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I used to care very much. Then one day I realized that most of the people whose approval I wanted had never stopped to ask for mine." His granddaughter wrote that down. She still carries it. The approval you chased across the decades was real in its power, but borrowed in its origin. It was handed to you before you were old enough to question it. You are old enough now. You do not need to be understood by everyone. You only need to understand yourself. If you have stayed with me this far, what comes next was written specifically for you, for the part of you that has been quietly carrying something you were never given permission to put down. Point 7. Going silent is not the end of connection. It is the beginning of honest ones. There is a fear beneath all of this, that if you stop explaining yourself, you will lose people. That silence will mean isolation, that boundaries will mean loneliness. This fear deserves to be spoken, and then gently set down. A woman named Lillian, 81, pulled back from 3 exhausting relationships in her mid-70s. She was certain she would be left with nothing. Was that 2 other relationships, ones she had been too tired to nurture before, quietly came forward to fill the space. They were simpler, calmer, more honest. She told a friend, "I thought I was losing people, I was only losing noise." The connections that cannot survive your authenticity were never the connections that would sustain you. The ones that remain when you stop performing, those are real, those are yours. And they were always worth more than the ones that required your silence about yourself in exchange for their presence. After 70, you deserve real, and real only arrives when the performance finally ends. Deep reflection segment. There is something about reaching this stage of life, truly reaching it, not merely arriving at it, that changes the quality of your quiet. When you were younger, silence was uncomfortable. It needed to be filled. Now, for many of you, the silence has become the most honest place you know. Think of the years behind you. Think of how much energy moved through your life, how many rooms you tried to fill, how many people you tried to hold, how many versions of yourself you offered to a world that was often too busy to receive them. Think of the photographs in your home, the faces in them, the moments they hold, and how quickly, how quietly, all of it passed. What remains, after all of that, is this, you, in a room, knowing what you know, carrying what you have carried, still here. The time that is left is not less valuable for being less. It may, in fact, be the most valuable time you have ever had, because now at last you know what it is worth. Empowerment shift. There is a kind of freedom that only becomes available after you have lived long enough to stop caring about the wrong things. It does not arrive loudly. It does not announce itself. It comes quietly, usually on an ordinary day, when you realize you have stopped bracing for someone's judgment and simply gone on with your life. That is not emptiness. That is what wholeness actually feels like. You still have so much that is yours. You have your mornings, however you choose to fill them. You have your preferences, your memories, your hard-won understanding of who you are and what you value. You have survived things that broke others. You have outlasted relationships, losses, and versions of yourself that no longer fit. None of that can be taken back. All of that is permanently, irrevocably yours. Awareness is its own kind of power. Knowing that you do not owe your explanations to the world, truly knowing it, not just reading it, changes something in how you carry yourself. It changes what you agree to. It changes what you walk away from. It changes the quality of your days. Not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly, consistently, in the way that only real things change. You are not too old for this shift. You are exactly old enough. That is the whole point. The final point, and the words I want to leave you with before we close, are the reason I made this video. They are the ones that stay. Stay with me, just a little longer. Final closing, the emotional loop. We began today with a simple truth, that no matter how carefully you explained yourself, it so often changed nothing. And somewhere in the years behind you, the wisest part of you already knew this. It knew it long before today. It was just waiting for permission to stop. You have lived a full, real, complicated life. You have given enormous amounts of yourself to people and moments and obligations, many of which deserved everything you gave them, and some of which, looking back now, you can quietly release from any further claim on your energy. That release is not defeat, it is dignity. It is the last great gift you can give yourself, the freedom to exist fully on your own terms for whatever time remains. You do not need to be understood by everyone. You only need to finally truly understand yourself. Take care of yourself, because time never waits. If something in this video touched you, if it reminded you of something you have been quietly carrying, then share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you would like to continue this conversation, there is another video waiting for you that speaks to the quiet art of letting go of relationships that no longer serve you after 70. I will see you there.